Wall Street Journal AP News Le Monde d'Affaires. Good evening, I'm Alessio, and tonight's story takes us deep into the tangled intersection of cryptocurrency, political power, and regulatory risk, a case that may well redefine how business, justice, and governance collide in the digital asset era. The protagonist is Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, and its founder, Changpeng Zhao, known in the industry simply as CZ, and the headline event, a presidential pardon. Back in 2023, CZ pleaded guilty to one count of failing to maintain an effective anti-money laundering program under U.S. law, and Binance paid a staggering settlement of approximately US $4.3 billion. Reuters, that conviction was widely seen as the apex of U.S. regulatory enforcement against crypto platforms. Fast forward to October 23, 2025, when former President Donald Trump issued a full, unconditional pardon to CZ, a move that instantly triggered shockwaves across markets, in regulatory circles, and in Washington. AP News. To many observers, this was not just a legal outcome, but a strategic signal. The pardon coincided with reported business dealings between Binance and the Trump family crypto venture World Liberty Financial, WLF, and a US $2 billion investment from an Abu Dhabi fund in Binance, facilitated via a WLF stablecoin named $1. Reuters and other major publications alleged that Binance had supported WLF weeks prior to the pardon. Wall Street Journal. The optics were extraordinary. A highly regulated crypto exchange, massive overseas funding, a presidential pardon, and ties to the former president's family. From a business and finance perspective, the implications are wide and deep. First, it raises serious questions about governance and enforcement in the crypto industry. If a convicted operator receives a pardon, what deterrence remains for similar misconduct? Second, it signals a shift in regulatory risk and jurisdictional strategy for crypto firms. U.S. enforcement may become more unpredictable. Third, it invites investors to reassess how they value crypto platforms. Previously, regulatory clearance and legal finality were major risk mitigators. Now those assumptions may require revision. Consider the narrative arc. Binance was pushed out of the U.S. market in many respects, facing regulatory limits. The pardon opens a path for possible U.S. re-entry and expansion, at least from a reputational vantage point. CZ himself tweeted his intention to help make America the capital of crypto. AP News. For content creators and analysts, the story is extremely rich. The interplay of compliance, politics, capital, and innovation in digital finance. Yet it's the ethical undercurrent that catches my attention. According to commentary in The New Yorker, this pardon may mark one of the most notable uses of presidential clemency in modern business history, especially when tied to direct business interests of the president's family. The New Yorker. Scholars point out that traditional patterns of pardons involved humanitarian or clear legal equity cases. This one involves a high-profile business figure, global capital flows, and potential conflicts. For regulatory and compliance professionals, the lesson here is clear. Structural risk matters more than ever. Crypto firms must now anticipate that regulatory outcomes are not just legal but political. A conviction may be undone via pardon. A regulatory settlement may be reopened via political change. That means legal risk modeling, reputation risk, and geopolitical exposure must all be part of the risk management toolkit. For investors, this event reframes how we view platform risk in crypto, and perhaps in adjacent fintech sectors. If enforcement outcomes become less predictable, valuation models must account for additional uncertainty. Moreover, the return of Binance to U.S. operations would reshape competitive dynamics across global crypto exchanges, potentially compressing margins and increasing regulatory capex burdens. On the consumer and ecosystem side, the message is equally potent. One could argue that the pardon sends a signal of legitimizing the crypto industry. Yet others say it undermines confidence in the rule of law and raises fairness concerns for market participants without access to such leverage. The divide is real. The crypto community cheers for regulatory relief. Watchdogs warn of precedent. Looking ahead, I'll be watching several key indicators. 1. Does Binance re-enter the U.S. market in a meaningful way, through licensing, partnerships, or even full operations? 2. Will regulators respond with new legislation or enforcement changes to restore credibility? 3. What happens with the Trump family crypto venture WLF, and will its stablecoin $1 gain broader traction, or become the focal point of further investigation? 4. How do institutional investors respond? Do they increase allocations to crypto platforms or adopt a more cautious stance given the political overlay? For content creators, this story invites deep dives into themes: crypto and political capital, legal finality versus presidential power, and the business costs of compliance failure in digital finance. It's perfect terrain for finance news segments, creator commentary, and educational breakdowns. In my view, The Pardon of CZ is less about one man and more about the broader dynamic of crypto's interface with state power, capital markets, and regulatory systems. We are entering an era where digital asset platforms may need to treat legal strategy, political alignment, and global diplomacy as integral parts of business planning, not just product and growth. At the end of the day, what happened here isn't simply that a crypto executive got a free pass. It's that the mechanisms of regulatory justice, corporate accountability, and political influence appear to converge in a way that challenges how we understand fairness, enforcement, and competitive markets. So for today, for you, whether you make content, advise investors, or simply observe the markets, keep this story in mind as you think about the next generation of financial infrastructure. Not just what companies build, but how they align with state power, regulatory regimes, and global capital flows. I'm Alessio, and that's your business and finance briefing for the evening. Stay alert, stay analytical, and remember, in the world of crypto, regulation, politics, and business are now inseparable.